Hello, and welcome to the course on Site Feasibility and Surveying. The main purpose of this course is to teach you about what goes on behind the scenes before a bridge project is even passed off to the student team, which is you, in the mid to late fall, so that you will have a better understanding of why our process may seem so specific, or it may seem like such a time crunch. And the learning objectives for this course will be to 1. Understand the site selection process as it pertains to the EIA Bridge program, recognize the cultural differences in the places we work and how this sometimes governs our site selection process, analyze what makes a site feasible, understand the in-field surveying process and technical limitations of that, and then evaluate survey data for a unique site. In this video, I'll just be talking about the first section of the course, Site Selection, which will closely follow the Bridges to Prosperity Bridge Builder Manual, Volume 1, Chapters 1 through 5, which is a textbook for the course. We'll start from the introduction chapter through project selection and skip the topographic survey section, which we'll revisit later in the course. In a brief introduction, I'll explain the pre-construction phase of any project. We'll use general terms because this is different in every country and highly dependent on local politics and culture. That is why we have in-program managers for each country to be experts in this. You'll need to understand that things may move at a different pace than you're used to in North America, so these timelines can vastly differ from your average construction project. The general pre-construction process is laid out in the Figure 1.1 graphic in the manual. Going forward, we'll explore each of these concepts in more detail. I'll also post this entire script below with these graphics for you to follow if necessary. The first topic we'll discuss is prospecting. This is performed by the in-country manager or experienced local masons working for EIA, depending on the timeline. Figure 2.1 shows the portion of the process that is considered the prospecting phase, Section 2 of the manual, and also includes Section 3 and 4 as subphases of the prospecting phase. In the following sections, we will go through more in detail about each step, but similar to a student bridge build, much more is happening behind the scenes than just the technical prospecting phase. During this time, the prospecting manager is building positive relationships, awareness of the local niche culture, engaging stakeholders, evaluating the needs and interests of community, local government, and after a commitment to studying the site is made, they'll check that basic feasibility is met. This includes establishing general interest from the landowner, technical feasibility of the geometry of the site, and social feasibility that the community is interested and can help build this bridge. After that, a secondary community meeting is held to establish the capacity, expectations, preliminary design, and budget are presented, and this needs to be approved by the government and local community before the project is finally handed off to students for the design and implementation. Well, what does this mean? Well, before you are handed a neat site information folder for your project, the in-country manager has been traversing the country, visiting communities for potential bridge projects. Their cross-cultural competence is key for navigating the social and political networks for communities that are actually in need, instead of just potentially furthering government party interests. An important step is making these decisions is understanding the key stakeholders at play. In facilitating the project, providing engineering services, and managing the experience overall for the students, Engineers in Action has a commitment to providing safe structures to the community, encouraging student learning, financially supporting these projects to an extent, and delivering a bridge as promised in a timely fashion based on the contracts. The local governments not only approve the project and support some bit financially, but they need to ensure that any sort of landowner donation is official, materials are ready, and machinery is available. Finally, The community needs to form a bridge community to help organize labor and form a plan to maintain the bridge that they will own after this project. Table 2.1 in the manual does a good job of summarizing the key stakeholder roles, but it is most important to understand that you are just a piece of the puzzle. The end goal should support all stakeholders in some way, so we are all pulling together towards that goal. And remember, cross-cultural competence is not a step in the process or something we can check off in Basecamp. It is an ongoing evaluation of stakeholder needs and how these needs to be addressed throughout. This is a quality that our in-country managers have mastered and something that you will be able to work on through the cross-cultural competency course and your travel experience. Now, we'll start at the first step of the prospecting process, site identification. The manual specifies two major options for site identification. First is a direct request. This is when an in-country NGO, community member, or local government requests a project. I like to think of this as the grassroots approach. And the next step is to meet with the municipal government to form a partnership and make sure they're on board as well. A benefit of this approach is that it almost always results in a community that is truly in need. Second is a needs assessment. This is generally conducted by a large entity, usually a national initiative for rural development, and identifies a large number of projects. I like to think of this as the top-down approach. And the next step is to meet with local governments to make sure they are truly in support of the bridge. One thing to watch out for with this option is any alternative motives from politicians on the top-down. Either way, the next step is to meet with governments, either municipal or local, of which the manual provides a good outline on page 16. This is usually a great opportunity to seek advice on local customs and understand their vision for the bridge. It is important to show photos from past builds or come with endorsements so that you can build trust and give a good understanding of what the bridge will look like for the leaders and landowners. They may have an idea in their head of what this is going to look like, and it could be totally different. Make sure to leave contact information and allude to an official agreement or a letter of intent, but we want to make sure that the discourse about the bridge at this point remains hypothetical. The manual mentions even leaving a blank copy of the letter of intent so that officials can familiarize themselves before returning. In the introduction process, it's extremely important to engage the local government early. Engage all of the stakeholders early so they can take ownership of the project and start building motivation in the community, while we begin the more evaluative phases of the site selection. So now let's take a step back. We build these bridges with the community, for the community, to improve social outcomes in the community. So, what is the first thing we check? The community. Stakeholder interest survey makes sure that the local government and community are ready to undertake a bridge project and confirms that they truly want to have a bridge. The in-country manager will perform this survey to catalog initial interest, basic feasibility, and any potential obstacles for the project. It's best to do this preliminary first meeting before the budget submission for the fiscal year so that a bridge project can be included. Then include everyone possible and ensure clear communication to the stakeholders. The formal commitment will be to study the site. So this has to be clear that some circumstances mean the bridge cannot be built. And at this point, it's good to create a list of priority sites, and we carry through the interest survey on at least 2 of them to mitigate any political interests and have a backup. An interest survey outline is provided, or the interest survey outline we use is provided on in the manual on page 17. And during this time, it is good to perform a preliminary site visit, have any initial contact with community members. The preliminary site visit is important from a feasibility perspective. It's that first line to make sure that road conditions, material delivery, access, and transport across the river are all right. But it's also a great time to start community relationships. We often invite government officials and social workers who may be able to provide more insight on the location, and they make sure to meet any landowners and get basic permissions from them. There's no need for a landowner agreement at this point, But it should be clear that the government and local community members need to make sure that the landowner signs an agreement eventually and sticks to their word. When meeting with the community, be sure not to make any promises about the project. We'll discuss this. We discuss the process to gauge willingness, interest, availability, but we don't want to promise that a bridge is going to be built in their community. At this point, if all the boxes are checked, the project study can begin. And at this point, here's where we evaluate all of the potential sites with the quantitative and qualitative metrics to ultimately select a suite of projects for the following year. The project study evaluates potential impact, overall community interest, contributions, technical feasibility, and logistical characteristics of the site. All these things we're looking out for in that preliminary visit and preliminary meeting, but now we're beginning to actually catalog this information so that we can prioritize this site in the context of a bridge project and how it may compare to other sites. The project study includes another community meeting of key stakeholders, and this one is more in depth and outlined on page 20 to 21 of the manual. In addition to a list of topics, it's important to recognize that is there sufficient attendance at this meeting? And if so, it's a great time to complete the social and financial survey. It is likely that a second day is needed for the logistics and technical survey that is necessary to create the preliminary budget and design and confirm the technical feasibility of the site. The social and financial survey process is outlined in section 3 of the manual and shown graphically in figure 3.1. Should be taken with both qualitative and quantitative metrics in mind. Qualitatively, we want to capture the story of the community. This is why we are building bridges, how we will motivate sponsors of the project, and how we will align our goals. Quantitatively, we want to record the project selection metrics in order to decide on the viability and then priority of the site. Overall, these metrics capture the scale and detail of the access issues this community is experiencing. Generally, there are 3 main points we need to be aware of while taking this survey. First is sources. Remember to vary perspectives, gather a diverse amount of input from leaders, government officials, community members, educators, local builders, healthcare workers, and more. It's important to communicate with people outside of the survey form context to hear their story, and the community meeting is a great time to interview everyone simultaneously for more input, keeping in mind that some voices may be suppressed in this environment, and continuing to have one-on-one conversations. Second is the quality of information. Remember that information quality can be affected by language skills of the interviewer, cultural knowledge, social dynamics of the meeting, and a desire to have the bridge built. To corroborate these common mistakes, the manual suggests preparing for the survey with multiple ways to ask each question, speaking to individuals outside of the meeting space, maintaining a neutral expression when questions are answered, verifying critical details such as number of guests, verifying how many community members will actually be available to help. And the final point is documentation. For this, we have 3 tools: a social narrative, social survey form, and access diagram. The narrative collects qualitative information to fill in the gaps between data. It strings together a unified story of the community, why people would want or not want a bridge in this place, and how much they truly need it. The social survey and access diagram collect and organize quantitative data. The access diagram helps us visualize the site, census, key locations, and where access issues occur spatially. The survey tabulates impact data such as essential services, number of people affected, wages, and occupations. This is outlined by a social and financial survey form shown in figure 3.4 of the manual, with each term explained in more depth in section 3.5. Ultimately, the technical and logistical survey is both a quantitative tool and a feasibility study for the technical aspects of the bridge. Before we begin the design process, we need to make sure that the site is best suited for, technically, a suspended bridge and meets our geometric requirements for safety. The first part of this feasibility includes site access and the ability to construct, or the constructability of the bridge. What is the availability of local materials? Will the government provide trucks to transport heavy materials or an excavator? Is there access to both or just one side? What are the seasonal weather patterns and water levels? All of these factors can add to the complexity of the construction process and determine if the site is technically feasible. The second part is referred to as bridge alignment in the manual. This is analogous to what I usually explain as geometric compliance. Is it near a traditional crossing point? So will the community actually use the bridge? Is it less than 120 meters with adequate height difference and freeboard? Is there space for foundations and abutments on either side? Are there any utilities that could interfere? Does the center line avoid riverbeds and confluences? Are there geotechnical red flags for erosion and slope failure? And at this point, land ownership should be verified in writing, and we'll make classifications such as rock type, soil type, and high water line. All of the same metrics you may be familiar with to get started with your project. And finally, we'll put together the social, financial, technical, and logistical surveys in order to make a decision on project sites for the year and complete preliminary budgets and designs that help us secure these contracts with the communities. This means that the social and technical feasibility must be met. Then we weigh the site need based on the magnitude of the need and how well a suspended bridge actually fits this need. And all of this happens before mid-fall, and the projects are distributed to student groups to ensure that you will be working on a feasible project and the community will receive a final product. So if you have any questions about this process, please feel free to reach out. Most of this information is covered in more depth in the Bridges to Prosperity Manual, Volume 1. We hope this clarifies as to how much goes on behind the scenes before you receive a site information project for your bridge project. And this adds context for when you are doing your design or have questions that may go unanswered for a week or two based on the availability of the in-country program manager.